Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Barely Bookish podcast, and welcome back to Kindred, episode 3 of this TV show. I am joined again by Candace, and we've got a lot to say.
Yes, I do.
Yeah. So, just starting off, going again, chronological order to the best of our ability, we've got someone randomly ringing a bell for Dana, and for whatever reason, Dana's mom is up in the attic with her, and literally nobody else is there.
Nobody. Not even the lady that was laying on the bed when we first saw the attic the night before.
Yeah.
It's still a palatial country home.
I also have to get really mad about the fact that they're like, Luke, find Dana something warmer. First of all, Dana is wearing a long sleeve and jeans.
And they bring her a dress. I'm like, That's way warmer.
Second of all, I'm like, what idea do they have about slavery that they think that anybody who was enslaved had access to warm clothing during the winter months?
I don't know. I was very I was speechless, perplexed. Like I my only note for this entire section, it's in all caps. It says, "Fucking chill out with this timey-wimey nonsense." That's what the note says.
Yeah.
And oh my god. Okay, so for me, the biggest takeaway, right? Like, I was being nitpicky as fuck about pretty much everything that I saw because I was so just put out. The fact that like Nigel has time to go upstairs and run errands for others enslaved people is mind-boggling to me. Like in the book, whenever like Luke or Nigel or Carrie or anybody has conversations with Dana, it's like on the way to do something that they're already supposed to be doing. Like it's never like, I came here to see you. They don't have time for that, right? Like, it's usually, hey, Mars Tom told me to come down here and get you. While I'm here, can you please teach my son to read? Right? Like it's always like in passing, like ships in the night, right? Somebody walks by and is like, hello, I am on my way to get Lady Margaret changed, but also you're very handsome and I would really like it very much if we could see each other again. Okay, bye. Like that's how I see conversations happening with slaves, because their time was not their own, literally. So like when Dana's like, oh, Rufus, like, I saw you. I think I saw you back then. Remember when I turned Rufus over as a baby? And her mom's like, what? No, I wasn't there.
Yeah, what was that about?
I don't know. And I'm like, what? So then like Dana's like, yeah, she describes the whole scene and she's like, her mom's like, how do you go back in time? Like, how do you go back? And Dana's like, I don't know. This is like only the third time this happened to me. And her mom's like, what do you mean you don't know? Like, of course you have to know. Like, what do you mean? And gets like really intense with her in the attic for a minute. Yeah. And then like she realizes, okay, Rufus is her ancestor, right? So like I hate the way that her mom explains this to her instead of her just kind of coming to the understanding like she does in the book, because she has a healthy understanding of her history and her past. Like I get that, a lot of Black people don't have that because it's hard to find records from slavery. Like not everybody has that. That's a privilege like my family has because one of my aunts was into genealogy. But a lot of Black people, American Black people don't have the information to understand A, what part of Africa they're from, let alone B, who they belong to when they got here, right? Like a lot of it is lost to time. But her mom basically infers, like gives her the fuel that she needs to connect the dots that she is Rufus's ancestor. Because like apparently her mom, and this is the thing that's really messing me up, is that her mom is the one that time travels back and forth. But but Rufus isn't her mother's ancestor. Rufus is her father's ancestor. Which I'm like, why would you go through those mental gymnastics for that? Because she said, yeah, I think your dad had some family around here. We both had family in Baltimore, but your dad had family like specifically here in Easton. And so like Rufus is Dana's ancestor in her patriarchal line rather than her matriarchal line like it is in the book. Which like begs the question, why is her mom there then? Right? Like like for what reason is her mom there? And like if her mom is there and this time traveling ability passes through the matriarchal line, like why wouldn't she have gone to her mother's family? Like, I don't understand, right? Like, especially because in the
Yeah.
book, it's not like she's trying to make sure something happens. Like, she has to save history. She's just making sure that whatever happened continues to happen so that she continues to exist, right? It's not
Yeah.
one of those situations where it's like, go back in time, kill Hitler, right? Like that. It's not
Mhm.
that kind of time travel. It's, I need to go back in time. No, it's I find myself back in time. I'm trying to learn a lesson while I'm here, and I'm trying to make sure that while I learn this lesson while I'm here, I'm not disrupting the status quo so that I don't blip myself out of existence. Those are two
Yeah.
completely different, like sci-fi wise and reality wise, those are completely different stories that they're telling, right?
Mhm.
And as she's saying this to her about how Rufus is her ancestor and all of this, right? Like, in my head, I'm like, okay, so her mom didn't come back here to make sure their family line succeeds. Why is she here? I don't
I don't
understand.
know.
It doesn't make any sense at
Well,
all.
and then the mother's like, "Yeah, I showed up and there was like a massacre." I'm like, "Girl, what?
I don't understand.
Where did you end up?" And then the mom drops the fact that Dana somehow brought that patroller back, but didn't bring the patroller back to her home. So this dude's just like in nothingness.
He's just out there, either in nothingness or maybe he teleported outside of her house and now there's just a plantation overseer or whoever just like riding around Silver Lake, California. Like,
Yeah.
what? What did the horse go to?
I don't know. I'm so confused. I'm
like, I'm glad that it's at least getting to a point now where it's like almost slightly funny. I hope it continues to just get, like, at this point I feel like the best that we can hope for is that it just gets more and more ridiculous until it's like hilarious. Because
know.
I genuinely don't know how they're gonna save this. Fucking Kevin loafs into the room. Da-da, Dinah. Like, he's so awful. He's so bad. Like, I
so
hate him so much.
unnecessary.
Like, I was looking forward to hating Kevin, and this is just
Yeah.
not it. This is not what I wanted.
No.
This is not what I asked for. And like, he like loafs into the room and is like, Dana, there you are. Like, he's been looking all over this house for her. I thought you went back without me. Like,
Yeah,
what? Get
see
out
that
of
woke
here.
up 30 seconds later.
Oh my God, get out of here. I thought you went back without me. Like, doesn't ask her how she's doing, doesn't say I was worried about your health and safety. Like, Margaret Whalen told him she is one room above yours. She's a floor above you, exactly where you are now. And he had to look everywhere for her.
Imbecile.
Like, I don't understand. Like, what? And then, like, I mean, I guess it's good that the selfishness of Kevin prevails in this show.
Yeah.
Because like we were expecting him to be deeply selfish, but this is like a whole other kind of thing, man. This is like some dumb shit. Like, I can't even get my head around it.
And then, so basically, Dana's like, "Yo, Mom, I'm gonna bring you back." And I'm like, Dana, one, terrible idea. Terrible plan.
Terrible.
Because here's the thing. You and your mom, not from the same time period.
No.
So, one, your mom either needs to A, figure out how to time travel back on her own, which then, in turn, changes your entire life, or, like, your mom might be stuck.
Part of the problem, too, is the way that this episode ends. I'm not going to speak of it yet because we're going to get there. Yeah. But the way this episode ends lets me know that perhaps the mom does understand how to get back in time, which, again, just gives me more questions.
Correct. So, yeah. Oh, and then I love that the mom literally looks at Dana and is like, "Yeah, Kevin's gonna get you killed. Like, that dude's a moron." And Dana's like, "He's not my boyfriend.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what you're talking about." And I'm like, "Girl, listen.
Yeah, I can't.
Because her mom's not wrong.
No.
Like, Kevin is a terrible liar. Like, if you're picking any white man as your shield, pick another one.
That's not the one.
He's terrible. He's so bad. And horrible. Like, he just basically, honestly, puts Dana in a worse situation, and she's already putting herself in a terrible situation because she's also awful. She is so ill-equipped.
Yes.
Like,
brutally so. Like, can't even pretend.
Here's my thing. You're telling me a TV writer A TV writer cannot even fathom on how a person should act in this time period. Like,
I
that is your entire thing. Like, if you're a writer, you should know, okay, I'll just play a character. How would a character act in this period? Like, what? You're telling
I,
me you can't figure that out?
I like I don't even know. She knows how to splint a leg, but she doesn't know how to act surprised. It's fine.
Literally.
It's
Like,
fine.
I am someone who is very strong willed. If
Same.
I found myself in the past, my mouth shut all
Yeah,
the
I would
time.
shut the fuck up and I'd never look at anybody. That's
No,
what I would do. I just shut the
because
fuck up
I'm not a
and like
moron.
be like, "Yep, just pretend I'm not here."
Yeah, literally, your entire goal, if you get sent back, even to like the 60s,
Yep.
even to the
Assimilate.
60s, you assimilate and you you no notice of yourself at all.
No. No.
Don't play the
No.
lotto, no matter how tempting,
Don't
even if
do
you
it.
have the winning numbers. Like,
Don't do it.
blend in.
I
And
don't.
Dana's like, I'm a 2016 woman and I refuse. And I'm like, girl,
No. Stop.
no.
Stop. Yeah, I can't. I can't. It's too much for me. I can't.
It's so infuriating. There's no reason.
So then everybody's in the attic. Like 5 seconds later, like literally every single character they have in the house is in the attic for no reason. Like Margaret Whalen is up there like the witch, because I guess she thinks that Dana's mom is a witch even though she helped save her son.
Yeah.
And then like fucking Tom Whalen comes upstairs and is like, why is everyone in the attic? And I'm like, that's a good question. Why is everyone in the attic? Carrie comes up there for no reason. Carrie, why are you in the attic? I'm like, how long are we doing this? Can we wrap it up?
Thing is, aren't they all supposed to be in the attic? Like, isn't that where
All of
everyone's
the
supposed to
slaves,
sleep?
yeah, not Tom Whalen and Margaret Whalen chilling in the attic like it's fine. They go up there and they start like having this like chit chat, this like argument about how like evil she is, and she's all crazy. Like Margaret gets all like fucking bananas at her and starts fucking shaking an angry fist and getting all like jazzed up or whatever. And Tom's like, I'm sorry for my wife to Kevin. And then Kevin's like, well, my slave, I'm sorry for my slave. And I'm like, can we go?
Can we
go? Like, can we just stop, please? You shouldn't be having this conversation here.
And then also, and we're just suspending disbelief that they would actually go up there themselves. They would send someone and be like, oh, go see what's going on.
Thank you. Like, why are they in the attic? They never go up there. Like, and it's real clean. It's spotless.
So clean.
There's not one cobweb. Like, okay, sure.
Who's the Susie homemaker of this freaking attic? Okay, because like,
it's just the one lady that lives up there. It's the one lady that lives up there. Truly. That's who tidies it because she wants
like, welcome to my home.
She wants to keep her entire home nice and clean. Apparently, like, are you serious right now?
Oh my god. Oh,
so they don't cram people into the attic, but they're fine changing the rest of the story. Like,
apparently,
gratuitously.
Yeah.
Oh, she's having women's troubles. That's the excuse that Dana's mom uses, and now they think that she's pregnant. And I'm like, all right.
I'm so mad.
Does anybody have something I can hang on to so I don't fly off this ride? Because I... pregnant. I'm like, why is this show so obsessed with like reducing this woman to being like a vagina? Like, I don't understand. Between like the rape scene in episode 1 and now all of a sudden Dana the slave is pregnant. And then like, again, so you're not going to talk about the real stuff that's scary and bad and terrifying and upsetting in the original source material. Instead, you're going to have Tom Whalen saying, well, good for you. When did you acquire your slave? When did you buy her? Oh, you got 2 for the price of 1, talking about how she's pregnant and he bought 2 for the price of 1. And he so much as basically says like, you know, sometimes it's good to get more workers, insinuating like that's why slaves get, you know, raped and molested and assaulted so that they have more property. And like, I'm in my head, I'm like, there were a bunch of other ways to do this, right? The conversation in the book that tells you that Mars Tom and his dad, right? Because we know that Margaret Whalen doesn't really have a ton of money. She's country. She's just pretty. And then we know that his past wife, right, his deceased wife,
Mhm.
that she did come from money, right? And that her family does have cash. And that's kind of how he was able to get this farm in the first place, right? It was his first wife and her family.
Mhm.
So, like, we also find out that in the book that that's how he got Aunt Sarah. Aunt Sarah belonged to Tom's wife's father and was passed down to them, right? So
Mhm.
that's how she ended up being in their family. So that's what I'm saying. Like, instead of having the conversation in the book, which gives Aunt Sarah, a voice where she can say, hey, some of the kids that he sold off I had with the previous master of the estate, right? Like,
Mhm.
some of the kids that he sold off are his own fucking kids, right?
Yeah.
That he forced me to get rid of. Um, and that's why Margaret Whalen especially can't stand Aunt Sarah, because of everything she represents and the other slaves that she knows that her husband has dalliances with, because they represent her husband choosing to go elsewhere and seek pleasure instead of being with her. So she has a problem with that, right? So instead
Mhm.
of having that conversation and giving a black person, right, the stage to narrate this horrific experience that they have to go through, right, that people went
Mhm.
through all the time back then, instead you're going to have a white person congratulate another white person and give that information in like a celebratory way. why
Yeah.
why would you give the white people more lines? Like, this episode is like 80% white.
Yeah. And then the way they reduce Sarah down to the one thing she does not want to be, with
Yep.
this whole conversation with Isadora, I
Yep.
was so infuriated when,
Rachel.
oh my God,
Oh,
I was like, are you kidding me? Like,
Rachel,
of
I
all the
lost
things
my
to
mind.
do,
I lost my mind. I lost my mind.
I
I
was
couldn't
like
even believe it.
sweating.
I kept saying, I was like, where's Aunt Sarah? Like, where's Aunt Sarah? We see Carrie. Where's Aunt Sarah? Like, where is she?
Yeah.
She's a major point. Like, she is the biggest. And I realize you can't have Aunt Sarah have the role that Aunt Sarah has when you have Dana's mother there. That's what happened. Because
Hmm.
Aunt Sarah is like a mother figure to Dana. She
Hmm.
takes her under her wing and is like, at first, I thought you were a little shithead and I was not interested in dealing with you. But now I
Yeah.
realize you just don't know. So let
Hmm.
me tell you what's going on. Like, let me clue you in on what's really happening here. There's an uglier face underneath the one that you're seeing that's already pretty ugly, and
Hmm.
you need to understand your role here, because, like, you're not free. I know you think you're free because you got that white man in there, but you are not free, and this is what you need to do to ensure your safety, right? Like, that is a whole relationship that guides Dana through the entire book. Like, Aunt
Hmm.
Sarah is arguably the unsung hero of Kindred because she's the reason that Dana's able to get out alive. So in lieu of that, they instead are like, let me put that on the mom to do, right?
Yeah.
But it's not like the mom has any real experience that she can give Dana. She's seen things that have happened, right? But it's
Yeah.
inferred that the mom is like seen as a witch, which is kind of like a hands-off kind of situation, right?
I
Like, I
mean,
don't think anyone's.
if they wanted to do this and they like wanted to follow the book more, but they wanted this whole weird plot with the mom, they could have made the mom Aunt Sarah.
They could have.
They could
They
have
could
had the
have.
mom there for, like, say, she had freaking Dana when she was like 20.
Yeah.
They could have had her in there since she's been like 23.
Yep.
She's been there for 20 years.
Yep.
She got, raped, and now she had multiple kids.
Yep.
Like, they could have done it that way and had that same relationship,
Yep.
and they just decided to fully disregard it.
I don't like I don't understand why they would do that. To me, that's removing so much power and agency from the black characters in this material. Like, it's from
Hmm.
the black women specifically. Like,
Yeah.
I really thought that they would do more to elevate black women because
Hmm.
of the source material. Like, at one point, Jason, my partner, looked over to me and said, "You gotta love the confidence of these writers." They were like, "Octavia Butler is good, but we can make her great." Like, get out of here.
Literally.
Throw yourselves in the trash. I'm so sorry. I know that's probably very harsh, but, like, All they
Yeah.
had to do was just make the book. Like, that's all they had to do was just make the book. And it was like they pulled one thread. I mean, we talked about this a little bit in our previous discussion, but like, it's
Mm-hmm.
like they pulled one thread and said, well, there's one way that we have to make this a little bit more suitable for a longer term miniseries. How do we
Mm-hmm.
do that? They pulled that thread and everything else fell apart and they were like, we can put it back together. No, you can't. This was terrible. Like,
So the one thing
terrible.
I will say is, knowing screenwriters now, I know that like they don't really have a choice in what they write. So it's the production company,
Right.
realistically, that's
Right.
at fault here. Because I'm sure the screenwriters are like, oh, we have this entire book. I'd love to work on Kindred. They start like doing it, and then the screenwriters are like, no. Or not the screenwriters, the production company's like, no.
Yeah, we need to do something different. Yeah, like so then there's a party.
Mm-hmm.
There's a party that like fucking Tom Whalen has organized to shake down his old in-laws for money
Mm-hmm.
to do an infusion of cash at this
Mm-hmm.
farm, which is really a plantation. And
They keep calling it a farm.
they keep calling it a farm. Um so like that's why he's like mad. Like when Dana goes downstairs, he's like on Rufus's bed, like about to smack him around. And I'm pretty sure, like in the book, that's not the conversation. Like in the book, I'm pretty sure Rufus is like, I'm scared of my dad. Like he's whooped me before, but he's never really hurt me. So the fact that
Mm-hmm.
he's like on top of him and the
Mm-hmm.
kid's leg is like broken and he's like, you know what I mean? It's almost like they make the two main white characters worse, but in superficial ways rather than the
Yeah.
deep-seated evil that they both wrestle with. Like, I think that that's much more compelling. Like the
Mm-hmm.
idea that you could be harsh and harmful to a black child just because they're a slave and you don't care. To me,
Yeah.
that's way scarier than somebody who just like smacks their kid around. Now, granted, smacking your kid around is also scary, right? A person who would do that is still a monster. If you're abusive to your child or you're abusive to your wife, that's still horrific, right?
Yeah.
Like there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. But in this scene, why choose to have him put most of his violence on the other white people that are there instead of showing the reality, which is
Mhm.
black bodies were there to keep white people more safe from people who were like that in their lives? They
So
would
like,
usually take the brunt of that anger.
yeah, what I want to compare it to really quick is, you know how like you see those serial killers that they're like, oh, he was an everyday average Joe.
Mm-hmm.
Could have been anybody, could have been your neighbor, could have been your best friend.
Yep.
We all know that is drastically more scary than the serial killer that everyone called the police on multiple times
Yep.
because everybody knew he was psycho. That casual guy,
Yep.
drastically scarier. That's
Yeah.
how Tom Whalen was. He was just a
Yes.
normal, casual dude
Yep.
who
Until.
also, yeah, like
Mm-hmm.
was horrible to his slaves that he viewed as less than human.
Yes.
You
And
know?
why you would dilute that is beyond me. Down to the party. We go
Mhm.
into the party, right? And it's like a white cam gets turned on, right? Like
Mhm.
every scene is just white people talking to each other for like a good 25-30 minutes of the show. It's
Mhm.
just white people talking to each other about white shit, right? And I'm
Mhm.
like, why is this happening on this show? White people are obviously in the book, but like, why is so much time being given to them, right? You find out
Yeah.
passive aggressively that Margaret Whalen has had a bunch of miscarriages because there's like some little angels on the hearth that Isadora says are creepy. Like, again, trying to inject levity into the show, like making jokes, like how they look at Margaret Whalen, like Margaret Whalen is the joke, which like I don't appreciate because that dilutes how ugly she is. Like, not on the outside, obviously, she's supposed to be gorgeous, but on the
Yeah.
inside, it absolutely changes that quality in her, right?
Mhm.
And so then like she's like, oh, let's have a let's let them in to entertain us in the spirit of goodwill, right? So
Mhm.
then like some black children come in dressed in like rags and stuff and they all like watch them dance, which I'm
Yeah.
like, and then they like throw like coins and like oranges and treats on the floor for them, which I'm like, is that supposed to be showing that they're kind to them?
I
Like,
assumed it was supposed to be showing like how they basically treat them like animals, but it's like, again, it's the softest way to do that.
yes.
You know what I mean?
Like, what?
I
Like
don't know, because it's because I feel like after you watch this, you're gonna be like, okay, imagine you give this to someone who's never seen
Mhm.
anything that just don't know anything about the world, and you're like, this is what slavery was like, here you go, they're gonna be like, okay, it was bad, but like
It's not
not
that
that
bad.
bad, which is not
Hmm.
that's not the point. The point is,
No.
this is how awful it is. Oh my god, you
Yep.
know?
Yep.
And it's like you're doing
Like
the opposite.
like even the scene with Carrie and Nigel. First of all of these children are far older than I thought they were in the book. In the book, I was like, oh, they're like probably 8, 9. These kids are like
Yeah.
12.
Yeah.
And like when Nigel comes in and brings Rufus that gift, I was like, okay. Or Carrie brings him the gift. I'm like, first of all, in the book, Carrie is just as afraid of Rufus as she is of everybody else. Like she only
Mm-hmm.
trusts the people in her family because she's mute, right? And like they never talk about the fact that she's mute. They're just fine with her being a silent minority in a show, which like
Yeah.
lots of problems with that. And she just kind of like comes in, gives him the gift or whatever. He's like, oh, thank you so much. He accepts it in front of Dana. They finally have the please don't call me a nigger conversation that they should have had forever ago, right?
Mm-hmm.
But like, I don't understand, like, the minimization of the
Mm-hmm.
conversation she has with Rufus about not calling people that. Obviously, there's so much more to it that happens when we watch it when we see it kind of happening when we're reading it in the book, right? Like there's a depth that just doesn't occur here. Number one.
Mm-hmm.
And then number two, when this little white girl comes upstairs, right? The niece of Tom Whalen, it's
Yeah.
almost like they felt it would be more innocuous to have a little girl. I mean, and granted, having a little girl say it, it's innocuous in a way, but it's also more terrifying in a way to have her say that, because you're just like, God damn. So even the little kids, right? The thing
Yeah.
that I have a problem with is the characterization of her parents,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like we've got her dad, who obviously is a man of the times, right? He has no problem, owning slaves and all that stuff. But
Mm-hmm.
then you have her mom, who like seems to be such a bleeding heart for slavery, right? Like
Yeah.
seems to have such a fucking, such a, I don't know, a yin to like,
But in
you
the
know,
strangest way.
yeah.
She cares about Sarah, but not enough to like want to free her.
Well, she talks about her in third person. When she sees Carrie, she goes, "Oh my goodness, I held this little one when she was a child. Yes, this one here." So she still says this one. She still uses racist language, like implying that this is
Yeah.
a creature rather than a child, right?
Yeah. She
But like,
treats
how is her daughter so fucking racist and shitty
I don't
if her
know.
mother is not? Like, how do you get that, right? Like, and then flashing into the white people's party. Okay, so going
Okay.
directly inside. Can I
Mhm.
ask what outfit Kevin is wearing? Because the man is
I don't know.
gigantic compared to everybody else that's there. He's like Viking tall. He's got
Yeah.
broad shoulders. Like he's a big ass man, right? Like Jason Stackhouse is like pushing 5'9" and like 160 pounds soaking wet, maybe on a great day, right? Like the
Yeah.
man is a shrimp next to this hulking, gigantic beast of a 6'2", probably 250-pound man, right? Like dude is
Yeah.
not small. He is not little by any stretch of the imagination. Whose clothes is he wearing?
Literally.
They're like, get him some finery. He's in this finery. And I'm like, where did you find shoes to fit his gigantic feet? Like, I need to know whose clothes he's wearing, right? So then he's like, always caught unawares. He's never ready for anyone to talk to him about anything. He's blurting shit out. Isadora's like, I just got back from England and I read this amazing new book. It just came out, Jane Austen. And he goes, Pride and Prejudice. And she goes, oh my goodness, you must have spent time in England. And I'm like, why wouldn't you have just listened and shut the fuck up? Like,
I know.
why would you be like, you mean this book that I watched the movie of one time with my girlfriend? Like,
Because he's
get
a
out
woke
of
white
here.
man. He's a
Oh my
woke white
God.
man.
Oh
Woke
my
white men
God.
always need to interrupt to tell you how they're woke they are. He's like,
Oh
oh,
my
I've read
God.
Pride and Prejudice.
It's so embarrassing. Like, it's
so embarrassing.
embarrassing to watch. He sits down, starts playing Tears for Fears on the piano because, like, obviously every show that has a historical scene needs to also have anachronistic music where somebody is doing the Westworld, where, like, somebody's playing an old saloon piano and it's fucking Nirvana, right? Like, obviously you
Mhm.
gotta have that because, no show is complete without it at this point.
Mhm. Mhm.
No one knows what he's playing. And then, like, the brother-in-law sidles up to him and mentions how handsome fucking Tom Whalen is, like 7 times, like in quick succession. He's like, yeah, well, I like to be down here in the plantation. Of course, my handsome brother-in-law and blah, blah, blah. And, he's a handsome plantation owner. That's right. He has a nice farm. And the farm is also handsome. Not as handsome as him, but he's quite handsome. And then, like, he says he's handsome like 17 times in a row. And then turns his homosexual gaze, which, like, I'm like, first of all, you're going to have racist gays in this show.
It felt so homophobic.
Racist gays. Why do we need evil racist gays in this show? I need to know, especially because, all right, I'm getting ahead of myself. So he's very gay, and he looks at Kevin, and he like sizes him up like he's a tree that he wants to climb, and is like, yes, well, he's not the only handsome one around here now, is he? And then like tries him.
Yeah, like just straight up grabs his dick.
Straight up just like puts his hand on his dick. And I'm like, there's mixed company. There are children running around in the scene. There are other people. I'm like, for as closeted as American queers have been.
Yeah.
For forever. I mean, there are whole ass like bits of history that have been burned in fires and destroyed that we just barely have. I just learned the other day, I can't remember this man's name, unfortunately. But there is a man that I found out was a freed slave who, after he was free, hosted balls, like the first drag balls, like
that's
Queen.
Cool.
Yeah. So like he was a black man who was a slave, and after he was emancipated, he continued that tradition, and then his brothers picked up on it. Like, he was a tailor. He used to sew dresses for men to dress in when they would go to these events. So like clearly queer history is as old as time, right? We've got Greco-Roman paintings of homosexuality, right? Like, since the dawn of time, there have always been gays. There will always be gays. We will always be here and queer, right? But it was not safe, I'm sure, to be openly grabbing someone's dick at a Christmas brunch in 1816. I just don't buy it. And so, like, Kevin's like, politely decline. No, thank you. Anyway, and then, like, he hears the screaming of the little girl and runs up to see what's the matter, because Dana has basically told this girl she can fucking slap her the day that Dana can slap her back. And I'm just like, Dana would never threaten to slap another child. Like, she doesn't even threaten to slap Rufus like that. And when she does, it takes a minute. Like, it takes her a while to threaten him with bodily harm. I don't understand why that is the way they chose to kind of like tell this narrative. Like,
I know. And even in 2016, as an adult woman, if a child is being incredibly racist in front of me, I don't think I would threaten to slap a child, like a random child, because one, it's a child. Two,
it's someone else's child.
It's someone else's child.
Yeah,
and three, if I start beefing up with some random kid on the street, like, I'm gonna get arrested.
Yeah. You look wrong, no matter what.
No matter what. I don't... What? Like, there's never been a day in my life where I looked at, like, a fucking 10-year-old and I was like, me, you, on the street. Like, never.
No. Me and you, Susan, I'm taking you down. Like, what? Like,
you look from the child and you look at their Karen ass mom, and then you're like, all right, get outside. You know?
Hey, you and me, come out here.
Yeah.
I'm gonna kick your ass because your kid called me the N-word. Let's go. Yeah. Like, so, like, that's what I'm saying, right? Like, and then what does Dana say? Like, this episode needs to be called Gaslight, Gatekeep, Girl Boss, because that's literally what's happening in this episode, right? So Dana looks Rufus straight in the face and goes, that didn't happen, did it? And Rufus is like, what? Why would you threaten her? And Dana's like, shut up. It never happened. You're going to tell him it never happened. I'm like, so you guys are just going to gaslight this little white child? What the fuck? Right? So Dana's like, fucking, like, they come upstairs and straight up, they ask her what happened. And I'm like, in my head, I'm like, why are you asking this slave what happened? Like, there would be no conversation. That man would have just walked up to Dana and slapped her in the face. It doesn't matter if you hit somebody else's slave. It's not like they had propriety like that. It was do it and then ask questions later, right? Like
Yeah.
ask for forgiveness, not permission. That's how
Yeah.
things worked with Black people back in the day. If you had an escaped slave and somebody roughed them up on the way to bringing them back to you, even killed them, the worst that would happen to them is they'd have to pay you for your property. Like it wasn't like, oh no, we got to make sure we're fucking respecting this white man's property. Like that's not real, right? So Kevin
No.
comes up and is like, I'll talk to my slave, I'll handle it. And the guy's like, well, you've offended me, sir, I'm going to leave. And I'm like, no, none of this is how this would happen at all. Dana's looking everybody in the fucking eyes, girl bossing her way to fucking glory. Yes, I did not.
She's like,
your
there.
child. Like, I'm watching this show just like, okay.
Confused, alarmed,
like,
shaken.
I could barely take notes. I just said, what is happening right now?
Yeah. And then I just... So confused in this entire situation.
The acting is bad. The vibe is bad. Dana doesn't act any different than when she first got here. It's not like she's learned how to like what I love about the Dana in the book, and like it's a love-hate kind of thing because it hurts at the same time as it like really is meaningful and important, is how quickly Dana kind of has to reconcile where she is. And to me, that buildup is what makes it so bad when she finally just like overstays her welcome and has to truly learn how to fit in there when the overseer gets at her. Like that one day when Rufus like kind of turns a blind eye and allows her to get beaten. Like all of this leads up to that moment so that she can finally say enough is enough, right? Like that enough is enough moment has to come for her. And it doesn't come because she still looks at Rufus like he's a child, like he's her ancestor and he's a child. And, oh, well, I got to make exceptions, which is why it's so stupid that this version of Dana is down to threaten a kid. Like she can't even bring herself to threaten a child. She's seen do like ridiculous shit. So how is she supposed to be threatening this stranger's child? Like, I don't think so, man.
No.
And then the man, the homosexual guy too, he says, which like, I don't even want to call him the homosexual guy because that's just fucking rude.
It's such a homophobic telling of this dude too.
It's gross, and I don't appreciate it in my black ass show. Like, don't give me homophobia in my black show. Like, whenever people assume that black people are homophobic, I'm like, no. What it is that culturally, black people are very tied to their faith and their religion. In religion, quote unquote, says that homosexuality is a sin, right?
Yeah.
So in the public eye, are black people going to be like, oh, parade down Main Street for gay people? They are now, right? We're coming around. A lot of people are starting to move into that world now. It has been a problem in the past, but that's something that we're starting to see change very radically, right? Before, not so much. But before, did every single black family have one uncle that lived with his roommate or an aunt that dressed like a man? Or yes, homosexuality has always been around. You acknowledge, oh yeah, that's my uncle Sarah. She's great, right? Like that totally exists in black families, right? So it's not as though like black people are like inherently homophobic. And then to like also kind of subvert the narrative to like include this other experience that like isn't at all relevant to the story that's being told. Like, is this going to come up later? Because when he leaves, he storms out. One of the things that I noticed is that he says to Kevin, that he there's a lot that he respects about him as a fellow slaver, but he thinks that he needs to get his slave under control. And in my head, I went, slaver? Like a slaver is a derogatory word. When you say someone's a slaver, oh, they're slavers. That's like saying someone's like someone is kind of like a fucking, what's the word I'm looking for? Like saying that someone is an abuser or saying that someone is like a monster or like a villain, right? Like it's not something like a slave holder, sure, because slave holder sounds like stockholder, sounds like, stakeholder, right? It sounds like you own something. Slave holder, sure. But a slaver is somebody who just like doesn't care, herds a bunch of people onto a ship and mails them out to whatever country they're going to, right? That's a slaver. Like it's not, I don't think they called themselves that in a positive way. So it was weird him saying it at all. And then for fucking Tom Whalen to walk up to Kevin and be like, hey, so what did he say to you though? When I walked into the room downstairs, what were you guys talking about?
Yeah, and then Kevin just straight up, no hesitation, outs this man.
Like, Okay, he touched me. He touched me. Yes, he touched me. And Tom Whalen gets so excited finding out that his brother-in-law touched him because you know that it's going to come up again in another episode.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
you know it. I wrote down, so we're going to be homophobic instead, or
Yep.
like I wrote that as a note. Like, so we're just going to like try to like shake this man down and commit extortion by blackmailing him. I know what you are, and I'll tell everybody if you don't like come round. Like,
I guess
what?
so. I don't
What?
fucking know.
Like,
It's so
ew.
bad.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Ugh. Oh God. Like, it was really disgusting. And then I'm not trying to jump ahead. Do you have other notes? Because I don't want to get to the end before you're ready.
Well, really quickly, I just want to. That scene made me feel like they're acting like Kevin has it worse here.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like they're
Kinda,
like, oh,
yeah.
poor Kevin, his dick got touched, and then Dana's sleeping on the floor. You
Like,
know, in this
I don't.
bougie, this bougie cookhouse with tables, like.
Yeah, and walls. Can you imagine how warm it probably is in there and how cozy it is in the wintertime?
Yeah.
It just isn't pretty to look at. It's just because something's ugly doesn't mean that it's bad, right? Like, what's bad is when you have slaves fucking in a cookhouse that has no walls in the middle of wintertime freezing their ass off. That's probably how that one lady got fucking frostbite on her toes.
Yeah, and it's just like they're so like what it feels like to me is that nobody did their research. Like that's what it feels like is happening. Is someone was like, "Oh, the gist of Kindred is that this woman goes back in the past and it's like really hard." And they're like, "Okay, yeah, I can do that." Like that's what it feels like happened.
Yeah.
And they also they've never heard of slavery in their entire life.
I don't understand. Like, I don't understand. When they get to the end and they go and talk to Aunt Sarah, they're like in the cookhouse, Isadora or whatever her name is, Isabel, whatever. She's in the cookhouse, like talking to Aunt Sarah. We happen upon their conversation.
Yeah.
And like
holding hands.
Can you please tell me?
Yeah.
Why in the world we find Aunt Sarah holding this woman's hands, looking into her face and saying, Miss Margaret ain't no kind of woman like you and the old missus were. No, y'all are some good women. Y'all some good people. Y'all some good owners. And y'all do all the right things. But she's just, she terrible. She terrible. She done sold all my children. She sold them up river to be able to afford that ugly furniture so tacky. And in my head, I'm like, first of all, what does a slave know about some ugly furniture? What does a slave know about what's tacky? Can we talk about it for a second? What in the world? What in the world would she know about some ugly furniture, please? And then number 2, why is she licking this lady's boots?
Yeah.
This lady's father raped her multiple times, and she's going to be nice to her and hold her hands and look in her face and stroke her face, tell her what a good owner she is. Yeah, black people were definitely telling their owners what a great job they were doing back then, and it was deeply meaningful to them if their slaves felt they were doing a good job. What?
It's so bad. For no reason. This scene did not need to happen.
It did not need to happen at all. And I'm watching it and I am just trying to swallow every bit of bile that is like creeping up my esophagus. Yeah. Like it almost made me sick to my fucking stomach. And then she grabs Dana at the last second and is like, if you're actually pregnant, you better make sure he gives your babies freedom. Like,
yeah.
What? That was a completely different conversation that Dana has with Aunt Sarah about her existence and her reality.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that was a completely different conversation. Like, why would it be happening this way? And then it cuts, right? It's like a super short conversation. It's like a 5-minute scene that's like a complete throwaway. And then they're back in the cabin with Dana's mom. Mm-hmm. And Dana's mom is like, listen, it was me that night.
Why?
It was me that night. Okay, what changed? What changed? Can you tell me what changed? Why in the world are you now admitting it? Why wouldn't you have admitted it before? We never find out why she said it wasn't her and then says it is her, right?
Also, I don't think Rufus knows Alice in this at all.
I agree.
Like, I am terrified of where this is going to lead. Like, I'm very much thinking this is going to be an I am my own grandpa situation.
I agree.
Because
we know she goes back and eventually he's a man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think there's going to be the relationship with Alice at all, which is something. It's definitely something. And
Yep.
two, um, it did take me a second to realize that that cat is the missing cat, which I pretty good.
Yes. Yes.
Also, like, if Dana saw that cat, why wouldn't she just like, actually have to take that back with me? Like,
I don't.
I think it would solve like 50% of her problems in the present
Yes.
day.
Yes,
Like,
it would.
if I accidentally brought a neighbor's cat back in time, forgot it for 2 years, and then came back later. No, it would have been when he was drowning. So this cat has been in the past like 6 years. I
Yeah.
would have just been like, I'm sorry, I need that cat back.
Yeah. My bad. Gotta take
and
her with me.
then, and then the current present day owners are gonna be like, wow, my cat aged.
It's a miracle. Don't worry about it. Don't ask any questions.
It's rough out on the streets.
And then she's like, she asked Dana in the beginning of the episode, "Do you know how to get home?" Only to then go, "I put poison in your tea so you can go home." And I'm like, all right, you know what? You guys y'all are trying us, aren't you? You're just trying. You're making sure we're paying attention.
She told Kevin that, hey, it's not actually poison. It's 1000% like a sleeping drug, and it's just gonna knock her out. And then, like, she's like, I put poison. And Dana's like, fall.
I can't.
Cher falls. The worst acting I've ever seen in my entire life.
So bad. Especially because the book specifically says, like, you have to actually be dying. You can't just believe you're gonna die. Like, the situation has to be dire. Like, the outcome has to be bad. Because when she gets beaten, right? When she gets whipped, she goes home. But subsequent times when she gets whipped, when she comes back, that does not happen for her. She's in the field getting like her ass kicked, but the guy wants her to work, right? His intention isn't to kill her. His intention is to get her to work harder. So when he whips her in the field, she doesn't go home.
Well, I thought
you see what I'm saying. So like
she knew she was gonna die, but she knew she wasn't gonna die in those situations, so that's why she didn't go back. I thought that's this thing.
So like, I thought it was when you're actually in danger. Like when the situation is real enough that you're actually in danger, because there's a time when I think, I can't remember now, like either way, the threat has to be real. Yeah. Either to her or to the universe for her to go back, because there's moments where she tries to send herself back, but it's not enough because she knows that nothing bad is. She knows that she's not going to die, or she's like inflicting that harm on herself. Until it's something that's like serious harm, which obviously is the last time she goes home. Like there's serious harm that she goes to inflict on herself with cutting her wrists. Yeah, I don't know, man. Like the episode ended and I was just quiet.
Yeah.
I was just quiet.
Like my other thing is, if you're your whole thing is you're not disrupting the past. Why is Olivia raising Alice? Why did Hagar die? What happened? Also, why is Hagar the mother? Hagar was not the mother in the book.
Something tells me that Alice is going to grow up. That the next time that she comes back, Alice will have become friends with Nigel, and part of me wonders if that's what they're going to do. Is they're going to have Alice be Nigel's love interest, and that's why Rufus steals her, because he's jealous and envious that he doesn't have someone. Part of me wonders if they're going to kind of just cut out the middleman there and buy them in that way, since he doesn't seem to know about Alice. And I also think that that Alice would then name her child Hagar after her mother, which, like, all of that is a long walk for a short drink of fucking water. Yeah, like, why not just tell the story? Like, it would be so much easier to just tell the story. Like, I don't know. Especially because if they had just told the story the way that it was written, it still would have taken them through more than one season. And I'm going to tell you this right now. I've seen some reviews online. This thing has got terrible ratings, terrible scores, terrible reviews. I think it's got like 3.5 stars out of 10 on IMDb. Like, it's bad. Like, people are not into it. I doubt there's going to be a second season unless they've already made it and are going to force it to come out. I don't know. This is one of the worst adaptations I think I've ever seen.
Yeah, of anything.
Yep,
Like,
hands down.
I've seen adaptations that don't follow the book at all, but at
Yep.
least it feels like it's telling a story.
Yeah,
For
or they're
this,
doing something new. Yeah.
yeah, for this, I feel like if you didn't even read the book, you would not understand what's going on. Like, it's so,
It wouldn't be an
yeah,
entertaining show if you didn't read the book.
yeah,
You'd be like, "What am I watching? Like, what is this show trying to say to me?"
yeah. Like, I'm cool with you making changes to the source material if for screen it makes more sense to do it a different way because you can't have all the inner monologue. It's
Right.
fine. I understand that sometimes you have to do that.
Sure.
This is not that case. This is,
No.
oh, just throw the source material out the window. I want to tell my own story, you know?
Yep. Yep. Like, it's a
And
knife in my chest every time I see the credits that say based on the book by Octavia Butler. I'm like, no, take her name
no,
off of this. Take her name
no.
off of this, please, Jesus. Don't put her name on
It's
this
so
trash.
bad.
This mess. Oh
Like,
my God.
Octavia Butler is rolling right now.
Rolling. Yep.
1000%.
Yep. I waited so long for this. I waited so long.
Yeah.
And this is what we got. I'm really glad though, can I just say, I am really, really glad that I am not on this journey by myself. Because like if you had never asked me to come on this
Yeah.
podcast and talk to you about this book, this like beautiful, amazing masterpiece triumph of a book, like
Mhm.
if we had never fallen down that rabbit hole together, if I had never been able to like talk to you and have these deep
Mhm.
conversations about this book that like just has my whole heart, I would be
Mhm.
sitting here right now going through this by myself. Like my partner,
Yeah.
so my nesting partner like has not read the book, but he's listened to our podcast and
Mhm.
obviously has heard my side of this conversation while we record.
Mhm.
And my mom has read the book, so I would have had like a small support system to talk to. But my mom is like busy with holiday stuff and she's like, I just can't take it. If you say that it's bad, I'm just going to believe you and I'm not going to watch it because
That's
I don't
fair.
think I could handle it. I was like, you can't handle it. Don't do it. Don't
No,
watch
don't
it.
do it.
Just don't. Just leave it alone.
Yeah, I like some movies that are like a terrible adaptation of the book. I'm like, at least it'll get you to read the book. And that's how I
Mm-hmm.
felt about the comic book. I was like, at least it might get people in to read the
Yes.
book.
Yes.
I don't feel that way about this TV show at
No.
all.
No.
Like,
No, at all.
this feels like it's gonna pump people's racist agenda.
Mm.
You know? Like, it's just gonna stroke their ego a little bit and be like, yeah, no, it's not that bad. Nothing to worry about. And I'm displeased. Very, very displeased.
To say the least.
Yeah.
To say the least. Like I am just
Yeah.
I'm just
Yeah.
I want to say that I'm speechless, but we have a whole hour of speech, so
Yeah. Facts. I just. And I
at
guess
least
having.
they go back in time in episode 4.
Yeah.
We can find out what's happening in 2016.
Like, I'm gonna finish this season for sure.
Yes. Yes.
And we're gonna talk about it.
Yes.
But it's not even a fun roller coaster. Like, I feel
No.
like I'm on the Tower of Terror, but someone put like Teletubbies in there, and so I'm just confused, you know?
Yes. Or it's like one of those like rickety old roller coasters that are like a wooden roller coaster. So there's no upside down. So you're like, this isn't scary. And then you get on it and you're like, oh, I'm going to die on this ride. Okay.
Yeah.
That's what it feels like. Like
Yeah.
someone tricked you. They were like, it's going to be really fun. It's really great.
Mhm.
It's like Space Mountain. Space Mountain's a wooden roller coaster. You're like, all right, that sounds good. I'm going to go on
Yeah.
Space Mountain. That's great. I love Space Mountain. And then you get on it and you're like, oh no.
Yeah.
Oh no, this is not the same thing. Oh no. I can't get off. Oh no. Like that's
Yeah.
what this feels like. Oh
I
my
know.
goodness.
For sure. Like,
Oh.
1000% agree with you. It's like, I'm gonna stick it out. I'm gonna stick it out and I'm gonna see where this roller coaster takes me. But
Something
like,
tells me it's gonna require all of our patience.
I know. Yeah, I no other words. That's all I've got.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah. That's it.
Well, I guess we will see you guys in the next episode, apparently.
Yep.
Yep.
Keep listening.
Keep listening. Candace, where can the people of the internet find you and the things you do?
You can find me at that Candace girl on Twitter, where I post pretty much all of my goings on. Hopefully, it won't crash and burn by the time you hear this. You can find me on Hive Social at Magnificent ONE, so Magnificent One. And then you can also find me pretty much everywhere else that doesn't have 15 character or less usernames at Candace the Magnificent, all one word, including Twitch, YouTube, and Instagram.
And all of those links will be available in the show description. So make sure to look there, and you can just do a little clicky click. That makes things
Yay.
easy. Yay. But we will catch you all next week with another episode of this trash fire. Bye.
Bye.